Welcome to the SmartKeys podcast. Today we are strapping in for a deep dive into the world of modern remote work. Specifically, how to master productivity without, completely sacrificing your mental health. We're using a really comprehensive piece of source material, Boost Your Remote Work Productivity Today, which, well, it offers some great strategic insights and practical tools for professionals like you.
And this is such a timely deep dive. I mean, remote work is no longer an optional perk or some kind of temporary measure. It is, for so many companies, just the standard way of doing things now.
And the scale is just massive, isn't it?
No, it's huge. We're talking about 27% of U.S. employees now working remotely, and 16% of businesses are fully 100% distributed.
Okay, so let's unpack that shift, because the data presents what we're calling the central conflict, this paradox hook.
Right.
On one hand, remote work is just an efficiency engine. We see these stats showing remote workers are 47% more productive. That's a staggering gain.
It is, but, and this is the big but, here's where the paradox hits. That efficiency, it comes at a cost. A genuinely alarming 86% of remote workers report feeling significant job burnout.
86%.
I know. So you have this massive competitive edge, the efficiency gain, bumping right up against this catastrophic mental health risk.
So our mission today is really to identify the factors, the organizational support, the pressures, the individual traits that the source material breaks down, to figure out what separates that massive success from just tumbling into stress.
How to get the 47% deuce.
Without becoming one of the 86% struggling.
Exactly.
That's the core tension we need to navigate.
All right, let's start with the data. Why is this efficiency gain even happening? The source points to some compelling data, including a Stanford study.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here is that the productivity boost wasn't just a sudden thing. It actually grew as companies adapted.
Oh, interesting. The data shows that back in summer 2020, remote workers had maybe a 5% productivity advantage. But by spring 2022, after organizations had time to, figure things out, that advantage had almost doubled. It grew to 9%.
Wow. So it's just the format itself is just more efficient if you manage it properly.
Exactly. And a huge piece of that is just the gift of time, the commute.
Right, the commute factor. It's so easy to overlook, but the source makes it undeniable. Workers saved, an average of 2 hours a week?
2 hours a week in 2021 and 2022. But here's the crucial part, the deeper insight. It's what I did with that time. They dedicated 40% of it directly to more work.
Okay. I think we need to pause on that 40% for a second.
Sure.
Because critics always argue that this is just unpaid overtime.
Yeah.
That people feel pressured to prove they're working. Did the source address that?
It did, and it's complex. The source suggests it's a mix of things. Self-motivation, sure, but also a shift in expectation. Since you can't be seen at your desk, you have to deliver concrete results. The whole idea of accountability shifted from time to results.
So it's a virtuous cycle. You use the saved time, get tangible results, and that justifies the whole arrangement.
Right. It's less about guilt and more about that shift to outcomes-based metrics, which we'll definitely get into later.
That makes a lot of sense. So let's look at the sector-specific performance, because it's not the same for everyone.
Not at all. The big winners are the sectors built around, project-based desk work, IT and finance, for example. Their annual productivity growth jumped from 1.1% before 2019 to an impressive 3.3% after the pandemic started.
Those are huge gains. But that does suggest that this model really benefits salaried knowledge workers, right? It kind of leaves hourly workers who need to be physically present behind.
Absolutely. And that's the nuance here. You contrast those IT gains with sectors like transportation or dining. Their annual growth fell from 0.6% to negative 2.6%. So yeah, one size does not fit all.
And to be fair, the source also points out that not all studies are glowing. Some actually showed declines, an 8 to 19% decline, while others showed that high 24% rise. So what gives?
Well, the material says the variance often hinges on two things. First, how much the company actually invested in technology. And second, the employee's actual homework environment. If a company just threw laptops at people and hoped for the best, they probably saw a decline.
Which brings us right to the dark side, the burnout. Section 2. Identifying and mitigating these challenges. We know the number is 86%.
And the problem isn't just working hard, it's the inability to stop. The source says burnout often comes from unclear working hours, and this is crucial, a lack of effective management that actually respects boundaries.
And how does management contribute to that? Is it intentional?
It's often not, but it's still impactful. Sending emails late at night expecting an instant reply, or relying on those always-on chat platforms, it creates this constant low-level stress. And on top of that, 51% of remote workers feel their companies just don't offer enough support against burnout. That's half the workforce feeling left alone.
That statistic should be a massive wake-up call for leaders. So what's the immediate fix the source recommends?
Employers have to prioritize mental health resources. And not just with lip service. We're talking about specific policies, mandatory breaks, actively encouraging people to use mental health days. You have to build a structure that allows for disconnection.
Okay, challenge number 2, isolation. The lack of water cooler moments.
Exactly. And those moments weren't just social, were they? The absence of that face-to-face contact doesn't just lower morale. Those little chats were where you solved quick problems or shared knowledge informally.
So without them, you get misunderstandings, inefficient teamwork, a real drag on output.
Which means you have to be intentional. You can't wait for it to happen organically.
Right. Clear communication, virtual team building.
Yeah, the source suggests things like short, mandatory non-work check-ins. You have to intentionally replicate some of that lost connection.
And finally, the big one, blurred work-life boundaries. Your office is your home.
This is where individual accountability really comes in. The source emphasizes a simple strategy, establishing specific work hours and a dedicated workspace. This separation, even if it's just one corner of room, it reduces stress levels significantly.
What are some of the tactics for actually enforcing those hours, though? Because saying, I'll stop at 5 is easy. Doing it is hard.
It is. The tactics involve things like actually turning off notifications after your cutoff time, or using your project management tool to signal, I'm done for the day. You have to put up that metaphorical wall between your desk and the rest of your life.
Which leads us perfectly into the individual strategies.
Yeah.
How you, the professional listening, can get a competitive edge. And it starts with a mindset shift. Performance focus versus hours worked.
This is a direct assault on what we call presenteeism. You know, the idea of just sitting at your desk for long hours to look busy. The shift is away from that toward focusing on concrete results.
And why does that matter so much for the individual?
Because when you're measured on the value you create, not the minutes you're online, your whole approach becomes more efficient and less stressful. You focus on quality, and that's motivating.
Strategy 2, optimizing the physical environment. The source really hammers this home. A dedicated workspace, natural light, and organized desk.
And ergonomic furniture. It all creates a psychological anchor for productivity. It tells your brain this is the work zone. It reinforces those boundaries we just talked about.
And strategy 3 is all about leveraging flexibility, creating a schedule that works for you around your personal peak performance times. Did the source give any tips on how to figure out when those times actually are?
It suggested some basic self-tracking. Just noting when you feel most energized for deep, complex work versus when you're better at, say, answering emails. When you structure your day around those peaks, your efficiency just skyrockets.
Of course, none of this works without the right tech.
Not at all. Technology is the engine here. And using the right platforms is key for accountability without micromanagement.
Let's run through a few of the tools the source highlights for project management.
So take Asana. It's not just a to-do list. You can create these custom reports to track performance and find bottlenecks. It gives managers real data.
And Trello with the Kanban board. That's all about visual clarity.
Total visibility. But for really complex projects, the source talks about Jira. Its advantage is things like burn-down charts. So a manager can see the project's velocity instead of checking someone's Slack status every 5 minutes. It shifts the focus from activity to outcomes.
Outcomes, not visibility. That's the key.
Right.
What about communication platforms?
They're not negotiable. Slack, with its customizable channels, keeps conversations organized, far better than messy email chains. Zoom, of course, for meetings. And Microsoft Teams for that broader integration. Using them right turns chaotic noise into efficient communication.
And that brings us to Section 4, employer best practices, the investment in wellness.
This is the so what for any organization. And the source has a killer stat. Implementing wellness programs can increase productivity by nearly 28%. Investing in well-being isn't just a nice-to-have, it's a tangible productivity dividend.
And the need for mental health support is just so urgent right now.
It's systemic. I mean, nearly 42% of U.S. adults experienced anxiety and depression last year. So offering counseling services, workshops, it shows the company actually values its people. It directly fights that burnout rate we started with.
Okay, let's talk management strategy. How do employers avoid the trap of micromanaging when everyone's remote?
The source points to two things. First, setting extremely clear expectations. Employees need to know exactly what the goal is. That clarity replaces the need for proximity.
And second, as you've been saying, adopting that outcomes-based monitoring.
Precisely. You use metrics that focus on results, and this is where those project management tools are vital. They streamline progress tracking without making people feel like they're being watched. The tech becomes a trust builder.
And finally, the foundational support, which seems obvious, but
It gets overlooked all the time. You can't ask for 47% more productivity if you don't give people reliable tools. Good laptops, the right software, ergonomic furniture, and solid IT support. Removing friction is maybe the easiest way to boost productivity.
so when you put it all together, the discipline, the tech, the supportive structure, it's clear that mastering remote work is achievable. But all three legs of that stool have to be stable.
And that leads to the source's conclusion about the future. It's not fully remote, and it's not fully in office. The future is hybrid. Blending the flexibility of remote with the connection of in-office time seems to be the key to adaptability and a supportive environment.
All right, and here's the provocative thought for you to carry forward from all this. The data says 99% of people are content with their remote setup. 84% prefer it. People love the flexibility. However, 22% still struggle, really struggle, to disconnect from work. So the true challenge moving forward isn't how to do the work efficiently. We have the tools for that. The final frontier for sustained success in the remote world is mastering the art of stopping, of setting those clear, inviolable boundaries to protect your mental health.
Your performance may be measured by results, but your longevity will be measured by your boundaries.
That is a perfect note to end on. Thank you for tuning in to the SmartKeys podcast. If you want to dive even deeper into all the specific strategies and metrics we talked about today, you can find the full article, Boost Your Remote Work Productivity Today, linked right in the show notes. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more deep dives into the future of work. Until next time.